Perspective. That's something we need during this time of COVID-19 pandemic. Some perspective. The TV news every day reports two numbers. Number of people who have died, a tragic number, and total number of COVID-19 infections. That's the number we need to see grow. But the news presents them both as really bad numbers. But we need people to have some antibodies, to have herd immunity to that COVID-19 virus, to keep it from having people be so susceptible throughout the public. I actually had a friend suggest to me the other day that we could put everybody who's vulnerable to complications from COVID-19 in isolation for 2 weeks, and everybody else needs to go out and shake hands and kiss and do all the things that would transmit the virus to each other and just get it over with. And then we could be back to normal. Well, that might be a bit of hyperbole, but it certainly is some perspective that number that often is thrown around as a bad number actually is a good number. We need a lot of people to have herd immunity for COVID-19. I don't know when you were a kid if this was true, but when I was a kid, if I got chicken pox, other parents would ask my parents, can we send our kids over to play? They wanted their kids to develop antibodies, to have herd immunity, have their own immunity to chickenpox. And to some degree, that's what we need with COVID-19. If people didn't have to worry about catching it, they could go out and they could do their business and people wouldn't have to wear masks all the time. So that number that the news presents just needs a little bit of perspective. There's another piece of perspective. Let's talk about the worst of those two numbers, the numbers of people who die. It's a tragic number, especially if you've lost a loved one. At the time I'm recording this, we're approaching 150,000 people who have lost their lives to COVID-19. That's been over the course of about 4 months. If we multiply that and assumed that the rate stayed the same throughout the year, we'd be at about 450,000 people who might die per year. But did you know more people have died this year from cancer than will die from COVID-19? Did you know that more people have died from heart disease than will probably die from COVID-19? Of course, those are not infectious diseases, but we also don't take the level of precautions that are required to prevent those other things. We don't stop people from eating sugar or eating fats or whatever it is that's promoting that coronary artery disease. So as we in government face things like public opinion, it's important that public opinion have perspective. The number we really need is how many people are currently suffering in emergency rooms, in hospital beds. Who needs resources to be made well, drugs, personal protective equipment? What are those needs that government actually provides? If we actually had that number, which we don't, if the news presented that number, which they don't, that would give us the perspective we need. This has been Set Point with Steve Perry.